I think everybody should have a period in life where they're honestly just traveling, like they just need to get the travel bug out of them. Even Command was saying like, oh, you know, you're never gonna make it on the outside. I want to be my own man and just go figure life out, you know, which is what I did. Everybody's just nice, chill, hospitable. Nobody does it better when it comes to convenience than like Thais and like other Asian countries.
Hi there, and welcome to Made It In Thailand, the podcast where we learn how to thrive in Thailand from top performers who have found success in the kingdom. I'm your host, Scott Pressimone, and in the episode today, I'm speaking with Forrest Lee. Forrest is an American who's been living in Thailand for 4 years. He's made quite a name for himself because he has a very popular YouTube channel that's focused on what it's like living in Thailand. I'd highly recommend subscribing to his channel if you haven't already. Now, I invited Forrest onto the podcast because he's a very genuine and entertaining guy. He covers some touchy subjects on his channel, but he keeps things lighthearted and fun. Even if you don't agree with everything Forrest says, it's hard to not respect him for being so open and honest, something I feel we need a lot more of. So without further ado, let's jump into the interview. All right, so I'm excited today to be able to speak with Forrest Lee. So Forrest, for those who don't know you, can you give a brief introduction of yourself and what you're doing here in Thailand?
I don't know, that's weird introducing myself. I see myself as just a regular ass guy that just makes YouTube videos and, you know, just wanted to live the expat life here in Bangkok, Thailand. That's it. I'm no one special, just a regular guy.
What's your motivation for doing the YouTube side of things?
Well, to be honest, like I started YouTube back in 2017 when I got out of the army, and then my best friend was like, hey, make a channel. Because my best friend back home, I mean, he's attained quite a bit of a following making just tech YouTube content. Gaming mices, keyboards, PC buildups. So that's his niche, and he's done very well. He's getting sponsored by Razer and all these other gaming products. And back in 2017, when his channel was, you know, relative when he was starting out, he's like, make a channel, do something. So I was like, all right, well, I tried fitness content for a little bit, and then I was kind of bored of it. And I was like, and at that time, I was transitioning from the army and then working and then wanting to live in Thailand. Because back in 2016, 2017, when I was in the army, I was binging off of Lost LeBlanc videos.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, back when he was one of the early travel creators, and I was just like, wow, like, you know, he made a top 10 islands on Thailand at the time before he started niching down over in Bali.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, you know, why don't I this is kind of cool. Like, what if I were to live and travel in Thailand for a little bit? You know, I'm in this weird transition. I was like, you know, let me just do this. And that was pretty much it. It's like, it's more of like, you know, documenting my travels, sharing my thoughts, and, you know, just having fun and, you know, just being creative and entertaining, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I'll be serious, sometimes I'll shit post a little bit, but, you know, if we're here just joke around, just having fun, and don't take things seriously. That's it.
Yeah, I think I would say that that's probably what makes a lot of your videos and your channel so successful, is because some people are chasing sponsorship, some people are just trying to make a lot of money from it, but it kind of shows that you're just being the legit you, right?
Yes, I mean, the things that I say can be quite offensive, you know, but it's like, if you meet me in real life, like, I'll tell to you straight to your face, like, this is how I truly feel.
Yeah. Well, let's take a step back as to like why you are that way, let's say. So it seems like you're pretty bold. You're not scared to speak your mind or maybe the truth, and you know. So let's talk about why that is and where that came from. So can you share a little bit about your childhood, kind of growing up in the U.S.?
Well, I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area to Chinese immigrant parents. You know, I lived a very privileged life. Lived in suburbia. Nothing really like boring, safe. So I owed 100% to my parents. Like, they were fantastic parents that raised both my sister and I very well. You know, God rest their souls. And you know, just normal childhood. Just went to high school, and, you know, in suburbia in Castro Valley, California. And you know, maybe we lived in a different time period. Back then it was the late 90s, early 2000s. You know, just me and my friends were just being a bunch of little a-holes, like just playing video games and just smack talking with each other. And yeah, I mean, that was about it. Went to college at University of California, Irvine. Went to junior college before that because I screwed up in high school. And then, transferred, finished out my last 2 years and, graduated, graduated during the financial crisis. And, honestly, I couldn't find a job. Applied a bunch of law enforcement, and my goal was to become a law enforcement officer, whether on the federal or on the local side. And it was during the 08-09 financial crisis, and literally couldn't find a job with departments. Was working random part-time jobs, and I was like, you know what? Like, I've always wanted to join the military. More for selfish purposes. The selfish purposes being that I just wanted to go on an adventure.
Wait a minute. No. People that go into the military are 100% selfless. They're doing it for their country. Come on.
My drill sergeant said that, and one of the things he says, like, what was the reason why you joined the military? It's because I wanted to serve my country. And I remember him. He was Italian American. His name's Drill Sergeant Tedesco, and he was saying like effing bullshit. Tell me what's the real reason why? And he's like, because I want to make money. And when it came to like my term, when he looked at me, it was like, why'd you join the military? And this is before he's already called people out. I was like, I just want to go on an adventure. That's it. And he was like, okay.
Yeah.
So it's maybe some people really do genuinely want to serve their country, and I'm sure they do, but I think a big portion of it is more for selfish purposes.
Yeah, I was curious whether or not you were going to say it's because girls like guys in uniform, because that's another good way to pick up girls.
Oh, that was a plus two. No, well, then again, I don't know. It really depends on the town. Sometimes military guys ruin it for the rest of us. Yeah. So it's like there could be a stigma, but if you got decent enough game, then you can change that perception.
Right. Now, you mentioned that you didn't do so well in high school. I'm curious how you did with that, given being raised by Chinese parents. I know that grades are kind of a big deal, right?
Oh, dude, they were fucking pissed, man. It's like my senior year of English. Dude, I was definitely not the stereotypical good Chinese kid. I was a bit rebellious. I cursed a lot. I got into a lot of trouble, pissed off my parents. I didn't graduate high school on time because the reason why I didn't graduate high school on time is because, this is a terrible story. Me and two other friends, we literally changed grades on my British literature's teacher's computer. And then the next period, I think it was like freshmen that ratted us out. So, naturally we got sent to the principal's office, was suspended for 4 or 5 days. And then, no matter how hard I worked, like, she was naturally gonna flunk me because I literally embarrassed her in front of the entire English department staff. Sorry, Miss Trueblood.
A great name too.
She was definitely out for me, and it's fine. So yeah, I didn't graduate, and plus I received a lot of truancy letters, meaning that I never attended class. I always skipped class. I always played was it hooky?
Hooky, yeah.
Hooky, yeah. Played hooky. Then because that's what seniors do. Like,
right.
It's your last year in high school. Nobody wants to go to class. And I didn't pass. I didn't graduate on time. So then I had to take summer school and worked my ass off and actually got an A. So.
Wow.
And I remember, like, maybe around July. I took the June summer session, and then July, when they found out that I passed, it was me and two other friends, and then we were inside the office. And then, I remember it was like 3 or 4 staff, admin staff, that did like a mock graduation, and then it was a little sad, but it was kind of funny too. So that was about it.
Well, so what was it about school though? Because I know people similar to you. I didn't do the quite changing grades, though I actually knew people that did something very similar to that. So friends of mine, and they weren't the stupidest in the class by any means. They were essentially people that put their focus on, I don't know, they just didn't like something about school. And so they took their effort and spent more time being smart about how to cheat rather than doing the work. So was that like you at all? I mean, did you have the capability, but there's something about school that you just didn't like?
I never found, I was having this discussion with my good buddy Evan about this. And for him, he was raised in a good family, and he thought school was boring, so he dropped out of school early to get his GED at like 16, 17, just so he can join the military like super early, because he honestly thought it was literally a waste of time. And, you know, I'm not as smart as him, but I felt the same way, where this is literally just a waste of time. It wasn't because I'm trying to cheat or anything. Actually, no, I did cheat. I take that back.
Right. Well, actually, I want to go back to your family a little bit, because you mentioned, unfortunately, your parents passing, but I'm sure they still had an impact on you. And there was a story that you shared on your channel at one point, which was about how your father escaped the communist labor camps, right? And how he fled to Hong Kong and then settled in California. So I want to know more about that, and whether or not you think anything that he imparted on you when he was raising you maybe changed your outlook on life.
No, I mean, not really. My dad was kind of a very quiet, stoic, you know, Chinese father. Like he was very soft-spoken. He was very quiet. He was extremely stoic. Never complained. You know, just did the work. You know, even though he just would complain to himself, if anything. But you know, I think his love for family trumped everything else. But I didn't hear about these stories until I didn't hear about any of these stories until maybe after his passing, or I think it was like around the 1970s or so. So like, I think when my dad was 16, he was sent, I mean, it was during the Cultural Revolution. Mao Zedong was in charge, and you know, my father and, you know, my grandfather, like they belonged to a banking family. Like my grandfather was a banker, you know, married my grandmother. They had 4 kids. You know, my father was well educated. And during Mao's regime, they saw the educated class, you know, whether you're in academia, whether you're in banking, you know, finance or whatnot, they saw them as a threat to communism. So since my dad belonged to the quote unquote educated class, they sent him to the labor camps during the Cultural Revolution when he was like around 16, 17. And at that time, I think when I was talking to my uncle in Hong Kong, I mean, my grandmother and my uncle, left for Hong Kong when he was only 5 years old. So my uncle didn't really know my grandfather that well. It was just like, I didn't really know him at all. Like I got sent to Hong Kong when I was 5 because they saw what was happening. So so with this story that he got sent to the labor camps around like 16, 17, and there were like many labor camps all over China, but then he specifically picked the labor camp closest to Hong Kong because he knew that he was going to escape at some point. He was going to escape, so he was like, if anything, you know, I want to do my hard labor over in this place, because at some point I'm going to GTFO out of here and make my way. So I think it was about maybe 1 or 2, like, I don't know, we're just working on the farm, just building stuff. You know, he didn't really get into too many details. He spoke a little bit about it, but from what I heard from my relatives, he probably spent like 2-3 years or so just doing hard labor. And at one night, him and 2 other buddies escaped during like midnight, which was like super common. It was quite common.
Oh, wow.
And you know, like while the guards were asleep, you know, they escaped. They slept during the daytime while all the guards were working, and then, you know, pretty much, you know, made their way over to Hong Kong. They all found basketballs as flotation devices, because I think at some point, I don't know, my geography's not that good around that region, but they eventually held onto some basketballs. And I don't know how true this is, but like one of my I call her my aunt, but it's technically my dad's cousin. She told me that my dad made a compass like out of scratch to point them towards a direction towards Hong Kong, British Hong Kong at the time. And then they had like basketballs as flotation devices, and pretty much just like you know, paddled over to closest to Hong Kong Harbor, to Hong Kong, before they were picked up by the Coast Guard. And then they were Hong Kong Coast Guard, I got to clarify. Right. And then they were in jail for 4 days, interrogating them to make sure they weren't communists. And then they're just saying like, hey, we're just here to escape. We want to live in Hong Kong. And then after 4 days of being in jail, they're like, okay, you know, come to Hong Kong. And then that's when my father reunited with my grandmother, his younger brother that he doesn't know too well, and a bunch of his cousins.
They were all in Hong Kong.
Yeah, a big portion of my grandmother's side of the family were already in Hong Kong. They're actually all involved in academia. They're all in they're all in they all end up becoming professors in Australia, in California, in Buffalo, New York, in Hong Kong. So that part is all, they're just all academia.
Well, are any of them still in Hong Kong? Because I've heard of some outspoken professors in Hong Kong over the last few years. There's been a little bit of a crackdown on that. So I'm curious, are any of them caught up?
Yeah, I think some of them have. I think a lot of them are still in Hong Kong. They're not so much on the outspoken side. The ones on the outspoken side have already left for Australia. I think Manchester United, or not Manchester United, Manchester UK was a big part, and Canada during 2019, 2020. So.
Wow. Now, another thing, since I think you grew up the same time as me, are you 38, 39?
38.
38, okay, so same age. So we grew up around the same time. I was on the East Coast, of course, of the US, but when I think back on my education, I guess this would be middle school, high school years.
Yeah.
I don't remember learning a lot about Mao and about what was happening in China, right? I mean, you learn a lot about the Nazis and all this other stuff, but for whatever reason, in our education system, they don't talk about the numbers of people that were killed, the number of people that were impacted. Was that the same experience for you?
Yeah, that was the same experience. I mean, for high school, we learned, sophomore year of high school, we just learned about World War II, and that's it.
Yeah.
Operation Barbosa, Operation Overlord, and then that's about it. You don't really learn too much about, the stuff about Mao. You don't learn about the Bolsheviks.
Right.
So it's all very, naturally, it's American focused.
Right. Yeah, I guess I can totally understand the American focus, but I just wish that people knew what happened. I mean, obviously your father being directly impacted by that, but it's just the numbers, right? The number of people that were affected is huge, and it's it probably influences in some way your views on things, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because
I'm very, I think because of that, it's a combination of my father's backstory plus how we were raised up with American ideals and values, that I'm very anti-communist, I'm very anti-Marxist. I mean, this is a plague to society.
Right.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, and it's different when you're impacted by it. I think people can think theories a little bit and they don't actually see the people that were affected, because in that case, it's going to be close to the heart. It's not, because that happens now in South America. You get people from Venezuela fleeing in some other areas, and they're just oh no, I have different views because I've seen what can happen.
Yeah, it's hundreds of millions of people have died in Russia and in China because of all these policies.
Right. It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
I mean, there's some measure of that. There's a good, huge measure of that happening in the United States as well, too.
Right. Absolutely. Now let's go back to the Army. You had mentioned why your motivations for enlisting in the Army, and it wasn't 100% selfless, right?
Yeah. No.
But what about your reasons for deciding to leave?
Also, another reason why I decided to join the Army was, to be honest, I just wanted to be on my own. I just wanted to be on my own. I just want to learn some life skills. I just wanted to be my own man. And I just felt like I was suckling my, I don't want to be somebody that was attached to their parents' teat. I wanted to be my own man and just go figure life out, which is what I did. So joined the Army, basic training, airborne. Was first stationed, my first 3 years, I was stationed in Anchorage, Alaska. Fondest times in Anchorage, Alaska, great place. It was a bit cold during December, January, but summers were amazing. And then my last 3 years, I was stationed in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, over in Fayetteville, in the city of Fayetteville. And different environment. It was fun. I enjoyed it. So you're from North Carolina,
No, I'm from Maryland, but interestingly, my grandfather, he was in the Air Force, and he also was, I believe, stationed in Anchorage, Alaska. And that's would have been many years before you, but and then he eventually was stationed in Udon Thani, Thailand.
Yeah.
So small world.
The base I was stationed, it was Joint Base Elmendorf Richardson. So it was a Air Force Army connecting base. So that's probably where he came through at.
Right. Now, what do you think, what did you learn from your time in the Army that influences either how you operate today? I know that you're really big into fitness. I imagine that's somewhat related, but what do you take?
I mean, when I was 18, I started lifting before the Army. I really enjoyed the discipline, the time commitment, you know, building muscle, building endurance, how it made me feel. And I mean, I think because of everything that I learned through fitness, that overlapped in other areas of my life. You know, whether it came to like being serious with my studies, post high schools, being serious with my studies, building that confidence to pursue what I want, to, you know, go out and say hi to that beautiful girl or something. You know, it's just, it overlaps everything with the way I see fitness. And then, and going back to your question, with the Army, it's honestly, it taught me so much about discipline. Like I really do believe what Jocko Willink, you know, the former Navy SEAL, mentions about how discipline is freedom. I'm not like, honestly, I'm pretty. Can I curse a little bit in this channel?
Of course.
Yeah, honestly, I consider myself pretty fucking stupid, but to make up for that, I will make sure that I'm like disciplined to the T and just ask a bunch of questions. More often, stupid questions I would ask, but I would try to be as disciplined as I can, because honestly, I don't have any natural talents. Like, I'm just being real. So I'm like, to make up for that, I'm gonna do my best to get my cardio up, to be a better runner, to be a better lifter, to whatever activities that needs to be done.
Right.
Yeah.
And things come downstream from that. So if you're confident in yourself and you're keeping good care of yourself, you're going to probably be more positive, and people are going to look at you differently, all that fun stuff, right? It has an impact.
Yeah. So it's, I think, discipline, and I think for me, I mean, this is so, like, I guess not arbitrary, but like ever since I left the Army, like, I think being prompt and time management is what I'm super anal about.
Wait, hold on. You're in Thailand, which is not known for time.
Which kills me, man. It's just like, and especially hanging out with when I first, like, you know, I'm still with my girlfriend, but when we first dated, like, I remember, like, she's more of like very lackadaisical, and for me, I'm just like where is she? Like, I'm here like 15 minutes before 15 minutes before the agreed meetup time.
Yeah.
And it's like, even 5 minutes, I start to get a little irate. I'm a little bit better on it because it's Thailand, you're right. Like, I have to be chill, sabai, but like, so it's still something I'm still working on.
Yeah, fair. So you eventually decided to leave, and again, I want to make sure we got your motivations for leaving and then deciding to travel. So what was that transition like for you?
Like leaving the Army?
Leaving the Army and then leaving the US and starting your travels.
So leaving the Army, I mean, I was super happy to leave the Army. Like, I've, you know, technically I served, you know, I say 6 years, technically it's 5 years, 8 months. I was ready to leave. At that time, I was like, all right, I'm ready to go do something. And I remember, like, even command was saying, like, oh, you know, you're never gonna make it on the outside. But they do that with every soldier that's leaving, so it's like, whatever, F off. But pretty much, like, you know, I was transitioning out. You know, I moved back to the San Francisco Bay Area. I got an apartment with my best friend. I started working at a startup, at an education tech startup, you know, doing sales and marketing. And it's like, all right, you know, and at that time, like, you know, I've been an early investor since I was, you know, 25. Super frugal with my money. Like, all I would do is just, whenever I would get paid, I'd put it into my brokerage account, and I would just invest. And it was like the same thing, like, you know, nothing really special. I mean, nothing really special, just worked a job, whatever paycheck I would have, I would just buy more stocks, buy more ETFs, and, you know, still kind of felt really empty, like working in tech, living in the Bay Area, post military, and, you know, this is in between watching Anthony Bourdain videos, watching, you know, Thai travel videos.
Lost LeBlanc.
Lost LeBlanc. Yeah. I know there was an Asian American guy that was posting videos during, like, the early, I call them the first generation Thai expat YouTubers back in, like, the 2017, 2019 heydays. His channel is called Live Travel Asia. So I was like kind of binging on, like, their content, and it's like, I'm here in California, I'm like, this kind of sucks, like, you know. And once I got out of the military and I was working in tech, like, I started feeling more and more empty, and watching all these early YouTube travel content creators like Lost LeBlanc and Live Travel Asia and Fun for Louie and a few of these other ones, I'm like, why don't I just do something fun? And you know, Anthony Bourdain was a huge influence, you know, God rest his soul. well, why don't I just do something fun with my life, fun for once, and why don't I do this Southeast Asia travel that I've always planned out since the army. So honestly, like I took 2 months off. It was a bit long, but I traveled through Thailand my first time in 2017, and man, I could still recall that feeling during my very first day. Like when I checked in, I remember I checked into an Airbnb over on Rama 9. It was kind of a dingy area now that I think about it where I stayed. I still remember the condo that I stayed in called TC Green. And I remember I checked into my Airbnb. Really, this is really stupid, but like I met this like guy on my flight, that was kind of like a dingy backpacker. Much older guy that I am. This guy, quick background, he worked in the LA music industry and was completely burnt out and decided to say F it. And then I actually invited him to like come crash my place because we like on our flight where we just chatted up. I was like, they lost your luggage, they lost your luggage, they lost my luggage. So I was like, dude, if you need a place to crash, just crash my place. It's cool. But thinking like hindsight now, it was a bit dangerous. But I remember, once I checked to my Airbnb, we went outside and walked around the streets of Rama 9. And this was around like 9-10 p.m. and there's like a ton of like street food stands. I just remember seeing like the noisy, like chaotic traffic experience, the raw sewage smell, and then eating a bowl of egg noodles like in day 0 of landing here. And I remember like, I don't know how to describe it. It's this weird innate feeling where I'm like, yeah, like, this is where I belong. Like I'm at home. As chaotic as it may sound, I knew this was right.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, there is just something about Thailand, and to your point, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. It's not all good smells, right? Sometimes walking late at night and seeing the rats and stuff, it's not always the cleanest, right? But it has something to it. Maybe a little bit like New York or something like that. People have, similar feelings.
It was raw, unauthentic, but the people are like just wonderful. It's a combination of a lot of things.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I've got a quick message to share. If you own a business in Thailand, or if you're thinking about opening an office here, there are a few challenges that you might face. First, for every business, growth is essential. Whether you're targeting the local Thai market or if you're serving clients outside of Thailand, you'll need a marketing and growth strategy. Second, you'll need to hire and train your Thai team. And while there's a ton of excellent talent here, there's certainly a learning curve when it comes to attracting and retaining people. Third, to get the best results from your team, you'll need to develop your operations and systems of accountability. I've spent over 10 years helping Thailand-based businesses overcome these challenges, either acting as an advisor or as a hands-on leader within the organization. I'd love to hear more about your situation and goals to see if I can help. I'm currently offering a free consultation to podcast listeners, and I've included a link in the description. Now let's get back to the episode. Well, let's talk about the people. What did you first notice about the people, or was there anything surprising, I guess, about the culture in general? Not just the city, but the culture of Thailand and Thai people.
I think the culture is that everybody's just nice, chill, hospitable. They'll literally give their shirt off their backs to make sure that you're well taken care of in their home country. I have nothing bad to say about the Thai culture and the Thai people. Just wonderful people. There are some things that Thai people do that I find quite peculiar and quite funny.
Like what?
It's the way they, sometimes like, let's say for example, like they'll be working on a project, they'll be working in construction, and then, out of nowhere, they're just taking a nap in some random like crevice or something like that. Back then in the States, like, depending on who's the foreman or whoever's overseeing that project will, have a heart attack through that. But
wait, you're not allowed to drink on the job site in other countries.
In other countries, some people, and a lot of them, they'll just bust open a nice thing or a nice like chong and have a nice drink, and it's so chill here. It's relatively a high trust society, and I don't know if maybe it has to do with like the CCTVs or there's a lot of, or maybe that's how the culture is, but it's relatively a high trust society. That's one thing. Okay. How much of a high trust, you're telling me the differences I noticed. It's a high trust society, that I can just leave my phone or leave my wallet here and it's going to be perfectly fine. The reason why it's a high trust society, it's because within Thai culture, Thai culture is very extremely family oriented. Where, regardless of which socioeconomic status you belong to, like everybody comes from a very family oriented background, or they'll literally take care of each other for the most part. Not always, but for the most part. And I found that to be quite like endearing, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of that and taking care of each other, I'm not sure if you noticed that in environments like a restaurant or something, you'll have kids, and oftentimes the wait staff will, take the kids off to go play or look at the chickens in the back or whatever it may be. Did you notice that?
Yeah. I know this with. I've seen a couple I've seen that in person here, and then I've seen a lot of Instagram reels where, like, there's an Australian family that'll take their infant kid, like in some random restaurant in Bali, and like the staff will just pick up their kid and and I like that. It's like the whole village is raising your kid.
Yes.
In a sense.
Yes. To your point of high trust society, is that maybe there's a bit of nationalism here too, and it's I don't know. It seems a little bit different. It's not super, super diverse. It's a lot of Thais, but the Thais take care of the other Thais. And in fact, I still feel as a foreigner, I feel pretty welcomed. But it's just that, you trust your neighbors. You trust the people down the street from you. You even trust the staff at restaurants. It's great.
Well, I mean, I would counter your point a little bit when you're saying that I think Thailand is somewhat diverse. Given their history. I mean, you've got the Thais, you got the Thai Chinese, you got the Portuguese that came here during King Rama IV and V. You've got the Thai Indians, Portuguese. You've also had a good amount of French influences over here. So I would say it's, and then you also have, Northeast regions. You have the Thai Lao that have their own dialect over there. You have the Isan over there. You have the Isan that have their own separate dialect. Northern Thais, and then you have the Southern Thais with a big Muslim area. Yeah. So I think it's pretty diverse, but I think there's also another factor that unifies them, the nationalism. They're very nationalistic people.
Right.
So regardless of all these diverse cultures, they do have nationalism to unite all of them together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like the Thai national anthem being played 2 times a day. There's a huge respect, it seems, for the royal family, things like this, right?
Yeah.
Now, but moving to Thailand is a little bit different, right? You mentioned that there was something about Thailand, there was something about Bangkok that attracted you, right? But then there's also a honeymoon period that happens. But you are still here after how many years?
4 years.
4 years. So you're past the honeymoon period.
I think how long would you say the honeymoon period lasts? Do you think it's probably 1 or 2 years?
That was my guess. I'm going to say that you've gone past the honeymoon period. So what is it that has kept you here?
Man, honestly, probably the people here, the culture, and I think the convenience. Like, nobody does it better when it comes to convenience than like Thais and like other Asian countries. They make it so convenient for things to run efficiently, to travel, to do things. And it's also a fantastic hub. Like, you could be based over in Bangkok, but then this is such a huge international hub. There's so many like direct flights that are coming into Suvarnabhumi Airport. Direct flights to London, Sweden, Dubai, Qatar. Direct flights to Japan, Korea. It's such an amazing transient travel hub. So I think convenience, the food, the people, I think that's what it really is. Not to say that I don't get like blues. Like, there are times that, every person that has lived here, I got a buddy of mine that has been living here for coming up, I think this year is his 20th year of living here.
Wow.
And I tell him that sometimes I get the blues too, and he's just like, dude, everybody that's lived in Bangkok, they all go through that. You just need to like go travel from like different places, and then once you come back, you'll have a true appreciation for how much you'll appreciate Bangkok.
Right.
Like, I had a buddy yeah, like a couple days ago, I was grabbing drinks with my buddy. You know, we have the same background. Like he's also Chinese American. He's lived here for like 8 years now. He recently went on a trip to Egypt for 3 days, and he was telling me like, all right, well, I'm gonna be a little bit explicit, but and I won't get into too much detail, but long story short, his Egypt, even though he was in Egypt for 2-3 days, he had a horrible experience. And he was just like, listen, if you want to put things in perspective, you know, and have a true appreciation for, you know, living in America or living in Thailand, go travel to Egypt, you know, spend 2 to 3 days there and then come back. You'll have a new appreciation for life. And I think that's what, and I'm not saying that everyone should travel to Egypt, but like get outside from Thailand from time to time, go travel to different places in Europe and the Middle East and then come back here. And then you'll have a newfound appreciation. It's like a reset of how you're gonna have a newfound appreciation for living here.
Right, of course. And you did quite a few travels too, right? So I think before even settling more in Thailand, it sounded like you went to some other areas like Korea, some places like this. Like, what were some of your highlights during those adventurous times where you're not as settled and you're just doing interesting things out there in different countries? Any highlights?
I mean, there was no specific highlights. Like Korea was cool. I mean, it just like made videos over there. Japan was cool. I had a wonderful time in Japan. I've traveled to Bali twice. I'm not a big fan of Bali. They're definitely not. Bali's too weird for me. You know, I'm trying to recall, and I think the interesting experiences are honestly the people that I met, the other travelers, some of the host families that I've stayed with in the Airbnbs and whatnot. And it was cool. I mean, I think everybody should have a period in life where they're honestly just traveling, like they just need to get the travel bug out of them. And then man, this question is, I wish I can give you a better answer for this question, but to be honest, like nothing, it kind of stales in comparison to like the time that I've met over here, or to the time that I've been over here, because after I traveled to Japan, Korea, like, Middle East, Europe, like I've always kept thinking about Thailand and never left my radar.
Right. No, that's fair. Well, you've also mentioned that some people have maybe made mistakes here, but you've also have some friends that have been here for many, many years, and it sounds like they're doing well. So I'm curious, maybe on the mistake side, what do you think are the bigger mistakes you see foreigners do when they get into Thailand?
Number one, I think they're coming over here with this whole price arbitrage with the U.S. or the British pound or the euro compared to, trading against the Thai baht and how much of an advantage they come from. But if you're not having something already helping you generate, whether it's passive income or whatever, that money's going to run out super quick. So for me, like I've always been, like ever since I was like fairly young, I've always been very money conscious. All thanks to my father. Like my father taught me the basics about credit card and credit card debt when I was like 15, 16. Like always pay it off in full every single month because that interest can work against you. And then, just talk about investing with some of my other friends. So anyways, I digress. But I think one of the biggest things that, that people screw up is not having the financial acumen or the financial discipline in planning things. They spend, and to be honest, like the majority of the world, I mean, nobody plans their budgets. Everybody spends their, we live in a very materialistic society. Everybody just spends their money on like dumb shit that they really don't need, and therefore they're out of money.
Yeah, it's a good point. And to your point of the arbitrage, you can say, oh, I can get a nice condo here for, $700, and that would be $1,400 or $3,000 in California. Yeah. And that's one way to look, but that's a kind of a defensive move. It's kind of like, I want my dollars to go further, and you're not thinking about the production side, right?
Yeah. Well, dude, when I was like living here, when I first started off, I lived in some crappy like shack for like $300, $400 like dollars. Back in, I think it was like 2018, 2019. And then, because I was very money conscious, it's like, I'd rather play more, how would I say this? I'd rather be more on the defensive side and, suffer now, and be conscious of how much I'm spending. And as soon as I started because I know that, I'm taking a break from work, I don't want to blow up my entire nest egg on some thing that I don't really need, instead of exercising delayed gratification.
Right.
To me, if anything, like, my best advice is delayed gratification is more important than you think.
Right. So it's back to your credit card example. I think some people say credit cards are bad, they'll never have a credit card. But the way that you shared that is that, no, you pay it off every month, right? Yeah. And you probably don't buy things that you can't afford. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to pay it off each month, right?
I'm very strict when it comes to my budgeting. And even like, I've got 3 travel credit cards. And if you really think about it, like, the credit cards like Visa, MasterCard, they make their business off of debt. And for guys like you and I, we pay off I would assume that you pay off we pay off our credit card like in full. And in return from all this debt that they're collecting, they're rewarding people, like fiscally responsible people, like travel benefits, points, transfer points to like partner hotels like Hyatt, Marriott, Hilton. So it's like there's actually a lot of benefits of being financially responsible.
Right.
From paying off all your debt. I don't know where this is going. Sorry.
Well, yeah, no, in a way we're the best customers, in a way we're the worst customers. I always think about the years and years that I've had certain credit cards, and I'm like, they've never made a dime off me, other than, of course, on the providers that they're getting the fee from, right?
Yes.
So, but other than that, it's like, it's nice that you can apply to any credit card. You can say, oh, I have perfect credit. I have all this history of paying off my credit card. But from the monetary standpoint of that company, they're not making a lot of money off us by comparison.
No, not at all. They're making they're making tons of money off the 85-90% people that are holding credit card debt for 1, 2, 3 years. Like, I had a buddy of mine that, was telling me like, oh yeah, I've got around 30 grand on credit card debt. Like, I'm still paying it off monthly. And I was like, are you I'm thinking like, are you kidding me? Like, are you serious? Like, how are you like holding this much on? I don't know. That bothers me a lot.
Yeah, totally fair. And I do want to talk a little bit more about money and how you generate income here. But before I get there, I think visas are another interesting issue here, right? Because people can, once they get past that travel period of, oh, I'm using Thailand as a home base, and I'm coming in and out, I'm a tourist visa, I'm extending for another 30 days. When you're settling here, now you actually have to think about a visa strategy, right? So if you could share, what type of visa are you on now, or do you have any opinions on visas in Thailand? Because I know obviously there have been a lot of changes. So
yeah, I got the 20-year Thai elite visa, or Thai privilege visa. At the time I bought it was a million baht, but then now it's 5 million now. After Thai elite rebranded to Thai privilege. Because like, I had an inkling that this offer wasn't gonna last forever, so I was like, I need to jump on this, and I need to get this handled ASAP. In terms of visas, man, I know there's the education visa, I know there's some of these other ones, but there's also the marriage visa, and I'm thinking to myself, this is what I did. I don't know any other solution after these price raises. Like, I remember I was talking to Mark about this during our interview, and he even mentioned that even with the price jump from 1 million to 5 million for the 20-year, it's still worth it, because it averages. Mark's way better with numbers than I am, so he remembers saying that the cost benefit is still worth it.
Right, it's a good point. So you're paying for that up front, and it's a little bit of a set it and forget it, right? You kind of got that visa, and now you're good to go.
Yeah, so it's like a set it and forget it. Listen, I don't want to deal with any of this stuff. Yeah. But I guess to say is that, whether it's in Thailand or the Philippines or whatever country you decide to domicile, you just pay the extra, and just get it done, and just get it done so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, it plays the point too of just not trying to be the cheapest and just get by, of like, how little can I get by on here? It's that if you're going to be on an ed visa, jumping across the border and hoping they don't stop you the 5th time, that's probably not a good way to live.
They're going to stop. If you're on the EDU visa and you're like, the EDU visa, you're meant to stay there for the entirety of whatever year, like 12 years, or 12 months or 12 months or 15 months. And it's like, if you're jumping in and out, even just 2 times, they're going to question you, right?
It's not a way to live if you have the options. If you have the options, and I think, to your point, when you find out this is a good place, think about it a little bit. Take time, and don't just live like a nomad for your whole life, potentially.
So one of the accounts that I follow on X, he's pretty big on the crypto space, but crypto's not his main thing. I remember following him before he started making shitpost crypto content, but his name's Alex Becker. I don't know if you've ever...
Yep, I know him, yeah.
And I remember one of his posts is that he posted on X saying like, you guys aren't going to listen to me when it comes to like crypto stuff or whatever, but so I'm going to give you the best advice. When you start making decent amount of money, a lot of, and he even mentions in his post, these countries have firms where if you hire these firms, they can either, number one, set up a business, set up a company for you, or number two, they can employ you in their company, and then you're just, if anything, you're paying the employment fee, you're paying tax on it, and then that can be a pathway towards residency for you.
If, let's say, there is an American, Canadian, Brit, whatever else, moving over to Thailand, right?
Yeah.
And they are trying to calculate, okay, I have a bit of investments, I have some money saved in the bank, I'm still, let's say they're not a retiree, they're actually like looking to work here a little bit so they can actually build up some income. But what do you think is a realistic budget for someone in their, let's say 30s, working age? How much do you think they should earn in order to live a pretty comfortable living here in Thailand?
Comfortable living over here, like I've seen, man, this is a very subjective question that I think a lot of people would have agreements and disagreements on. And it's like, I remember I made a video 2 years ago, like, I remember this is back when I was living in my old place, and I think I was budgeting around $2,600. Honestly, like, if you want to live very comfortably, and, I'm going to get a lot of disagreements with this, but like, honestly, like, $3,500, $4K a month, like, I know that may seem a lot to some people, but like, I would rather like push someone to strive to make more money and to have a more comfortable lifestyle living here than somebody living in some sort of small, like rundown condo. Like, why put yourself in that situation? Why don't you just pay the extra money and just live comfortably? Mm. So I think in numbers wise, I'd say 3,500, 4K. Live in go live in like a nicer neighborhood. That way you don't have to stress out, and it's just you're just gonna have a more happier peace of mind. Why not?
Yeah, fair points. And I think every time when I watch videos on the cost of living in Thailand, there are a few things that are often left out, right? So you can run through things like cost of apartments and cost of food and stuff like that. But then what about saving? You had mentioned that you save money, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you save? What about travel? Guess what? Airfare, even to go back to your home country, can be pretty expensive.
Yes.
So there's like the living cost, but then there's also the, emergencies. I just had my car break down a couple days ago, right? It's like, there's costs that just pop up. There's health things that pop up. Yeah. So you have to not just be able to get by, think through what does it cost to be able to deal with big issues that come up.
Yes.
Right? So,
it's... Yeah. Like, you never want to be in a position where you're constantly penny pitching and like, okay, you're spending $700 a month. It's like, what are you gonna do? Stay in your condo and just eat ramen noodles all day? Like, it's no way to live.
Yes, yes. Now on the people side, I'm just curious, have you been able to build up a pretty good network since you've been here in Thailand of friends, of community, of peers, of mentors? I'm just kind of curious of your situation of how you were able to maybe build up that circle. And then additionally, are there any interesting characters that you've met over the years that you maybe avoid since you've been here?
My case is really different just because I had a social media following, and it's like, I've had consulting, and it's like people that would book sessions with me, and then I'd be like, all right, this guy's cool. This guy's a weirdo. I don't want to. And I've kind of like, and through friends of friends, it's like I've kind of, because of, having a decent social media presence, I've been able to pick and choose like, all right, these are the people that I want to hang out with. These are the people I kind of want to filter out. But I mean, for those that don't have that, I mean, just know that when you first move here, you're gonna have like, maybe your first 2 years, like you're gonna have around 20 to 30 surface level friends. And then after those 2 years, those 20 to 30 surface level friends, it's gonna nail down to 4 to 5. Because you have to realize that like a lot of people here, and it could be here, it can be anywhere in life, like, but I sense it a lot more here. I mean, people, once you realize people's true intention from like all the surface level friends you're gonna hit up, hey, let's go party in Soy 11, or let's go to this bar in Tonglaw, or let's go clubbing. A lot of people will only contact you you know, if they want something from you. That's quite often here. That's very common over here. It's like if they need something from you, like I'll buddy, cozy up to you. That's up to you to kind of discern whether this person's genuine or not. And some people aren't really good at discerning that, and some people are pretty good at picking things up. And maybe it's because I'm getting old, but to be honest, like I'm not old, not old, but we're not old. I hope not. But it's like I only have like 3 to 4 friends that like I truly hang out with.
Yeah.
Other than that, like I love hanging out with my girlfriend. That's it. Just keep life simple.
Yeah, fair point. And that kind of brings to the topic of dating in Thailand, right?
Yeah.
So what has been your experience with dating in Thailand first compared to dating in the US?
I mean, dating in the US has been, man, I don't know, like I've been so out of the zone of dating in the US that I don't even know how it is to date in the US anymore. I mean, maybe it's because it's more, I'm assuming in Western dating environments, they try to keep it more of like a 50-50 playing ground. Like, oh, let's do this 50-50, like split the bill type of thing. And then versus dating over here, it's more traditional where it's like the man is taking care of everything. There's set male female dynamics. Like the male dating here as a man, you're expected to handle everything in the finances, and then the woman will fulfill her feminine role. And just for a lot of guys that are coming from Western countries that are dating over here, just remember, and some of them will complain like, oh well, they'll complain about, man, I gotta take care of the bill for my Thai girlfriend or whatever, like, I pay for everything. They'll bitch and complain about that. Well, keep in mind that you could go back to the 50-50 splitting the bill, but just know that in a woman's subconscious mind, they're not going to respect you as much if you're doing this whole 50-50 split. Where if you're over here, if you want to have a more traditional relationship where you're in a more masculine role, then know that you're going to handle, like as a man, you're going to handle the majority of the finances. So you take it or leave it.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, fair. I mean, is there anything else outside of finances and the masculine and feminine roles, like things that you've learned that you kind of wish you knew years ago when you first started dating in Thailand?
If you have trouble dating over here, I would say that you're terrible with women. This is probably one of the easiest places to date. But whether it's like myself or a lot of my buddies over here, like whether they're Thai or whether they're a foreigner, like it's super easy to have this like playboy lifestyle. Like, oh, I can date, like 4 or 5 different girls at the same time. Like, and I'll be honest, like when I was single, like I was dating multiple girls at the same time, and my like looking at this hindsight now, when I think back in those days, like 3-4 years ago, like it's honestly just a waste of time, like dating multiple girls at the same time. It's literally the biggest time waster. You're spending so much time trying to enter, like it feels like you're more in a managerial role compared to, let's say, if you were to go on many coffee dates and then commit to one monogamous relationship. Like there was a period where I felt like I was a manager, where I'm like, all right, I gotta make sure I keep it, girl A, I'm entertaining that one. I gotta make sure girl C is, like still on her radar and all this other stuff. Or to the point where it's like, I'm not even enjoying this dating experience. I feel like I'm just a manager trying to keep up a schedule with all these girls. And I've seen this with some of my old former friends, keyword former, that have done the same thing too. And it's like, it's just a draining lifestyle where everything is just just very surface level. It's like surface level reactions or interactions. And at the very end of the day, like I just wasn't happy, and I thought it was honestly just it's literally a waste of fucking time. Compared to let's say if you find one that you really like, and invest more time in that one monogamous relationship. So I think, knowing what I know now, I would have wish I would have been a bit more serious committing to one monogamous relationship, investing in that time, having a deeper connection, and then whatever time spent on dating 3 or 4 other girls, then you focus on your fitness, making money, gym, more impactful interactions.
Yeah, it's great advice. I can't help but think it reminds me a bit, we're both a bit into business, right? And I hear some people, this isn't around the passive income side of things, but on the active making money, sometimes people try to start 3 businesses at the same time.
Yeah.
There's no way you can be as effective
Yeah.
balancing 3 businesses, nor 3 or 5 girlfriends, right?
Yeah.
Or people you're dating.
As men, men aren't multitaskers. They're just, I think we're best at focusing on one thing at a time and just, putting your heart and energy towards that.
Right, absolutely. Now, I understand you have a pretty serious relationship now, and I think you had mentioned in a past video something about there are differences in groups of women here, and let's say culture, right? So there's Thai women and there's Thai Chinese women, right? Do you want to share anything about that? What the differences are in your mind?
Absolutely. So I think with my past relationships dating Thai Chinese women, Thai women, I think, how would I say this? Well, to give a little bit of a background, you have your Chinese diaspora, your overseas Chinese. Thailand is one of the biggest countries that have the largest Chinese diaspora, with up to between 9 to 10 million Thai Chinese, compared to Chinese Americans. I think we're number 3rd, with 5.4 million Chinese Americans living overseas. So there's a big Thai Chinese community over here. In terms of Chinese culture, whether with mine too, how I was raised is that we place big significance whether it comes to wealth and education. Those are very determining factors of why they have the money the way they are, because we place a huge importance on building wealth. Wealth has to be protected, and in terms with the way I was brought up is that we pass on that wealth 1 to 2 generations down. Where even in my current mindset, when I die, I expect to take care of my heirs, and then I would expect my heirs to take care of their children. That's the way I see it. So when it comes to their communities over here, everybody's here is building, textile shops, auto shops, building businesses, and then not spending money on alcohol or anything, just constantly saving and investing that money into real estate and whatnot. So with Thai Chinese women, they're definitely more financially stable, but the trade-off is that they're going to be more focused on making money, and then a little bit less on the feminine side about wanting to take care of you. Versus if I compare to if I were to compare to Thai women, they may not be financially stable, hence, generalized statement that I'm making, not all of them are. But at the same time, they're much more devoted to their husband and their boyfriend. And they'll play that support of femininity. See what the trade-off is. You can't have it all. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I think for my case, I chose a Thai woman.
I know that you're not married now, right? So you have a girlfriend, but I'm curious if you have any opinions on building families in Thailand. So let's say that in the future you do get married and you do end up, let's say, having kids. Would you move back to the U.S. if that happened, or do you think that it's feasible to raise a family here in Thailand?
100%, yes, absolutely. And it's you don't have to raise them in Bangkok. What if you want to raise them over in Hua Hin, where you're going to have a much bigger space, 2 international schools, quieter community, more of a sleepy retirement community. So you can do that. You could raise them in Bangkok, where even though it can be a bit chaotic, you're going to have options with multiple bilingual schools, international schools that you can send them to. So it's different variety. You just got to. It's not a one size fits all. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, fair. And you had said that you don't plan to move back to the U.S. So I'm just curious, are there a few reasons that you prefer Thailand over the U.S.? And obviously we talked about relationships and dating and traditional side of things here in Thailand. But are there anything else that you'd share as to why you prefer to live here than the U.S.?
I really prefer here just because it's still, I'm saying currently right now, it could also change, but I really enjoy the family culture. It's extremely family oriented. The older I get, the more I cherish how much family means to me, and how I want to raise my kids in a very family oriented society. Versus in the United States, I know every state is very different, but it just seems more or less family oriented. It's more leaning towards on the woke side. Birth rates are plummeting in the U.S. You're kind of going through this period of millennial self-narcissism where it's happening to some of my friends, some of my married couple friends that I know, where it's like, oh, we're gonna forego having children and, we're gonna, live for ourselves. Well, I don't want to live for myself. I want to live for my family, and I want to live for my kids, and I want to provide for them. I can definitely see myself raising my family over here, whether it's gonna be in Bangkok or in elsewhere, maybe in Hua Hin or something. These are some things I'm still just wargaming in my head.
So, and obviously there's differences in a lot of these areas. You got a chance to travel around a bit, right? When you're maybe getting tired of smog and everything of Thailand and different seasons. If there was flooding in the past few years ago, there was a lot more flooding and stuff here. But did you ever sort of escape to some of the other regions in Thailand and appreciate any of them?
Maybe there were some minor floods here in Bangkok, but I've never felt compared to escape to like a different region compared to, let's say, if you were to escape smoky season in Chiang Mai and go to Hua Hin instead. Like I've never lived in Chiang Mai for an extended period of time, so I think so far, like knock on wood, my experiences over in Bangkok are good so far. Yeah. But I don't see myself living in in Chiang Mai or Chiang Rai up in the north where they're heavily impacted. I know Chiang Mai is going through a massive flood right now. And on top of that, they have to deal with smoky season. I don't think so, not yet.
Yeah, so you, like I said before, you've gotten through that honeymoon period. You have come out the other end, and you're appreciating Bangkok.
Yes, I would say so. And in order to maintain, maintaining, once you post honeymoon period, you just need to get out of Bangkok every now and then. Like, go travel, whether it's to like a nearby province or short getaway, go overseas, like book a 3.5 hour flight to Hong Kong, spend 2 or 3 days, and then just come back. I think small trips really do make a huge impact for long-term sustainability living here.
Do you have any ideas for the future, whether that be on the personal front, on the business front? What are your thoughts for the next few years?
I think ideally in the next couple of years, I'd like to get married, I'm not a young man, so I'd like to get married. I like to have kids. I'll have kids. I'm gonna be a father, be a great husband. I'm gonna, I don't know. That's pretty much. Be a great father, be a great husband. I'm kind of in the process right now. To talk a little bit more on the religious standpoint, I'm kind of in the process of being a catechumen, which is I'm going through a process of becoming a Catholic. So I'm, focusing on becoming, going through baptism and confirmation and becoming a Catholic here, and being more in tune with the Catholic Church here. Those are some things that are currently in my mind right now. I think when it comes to finances are doing great. Always, kind of building wealth. Like for me, building wealth and being able to provide my family is very key, important for me. Business, if there is the right opportunity, sure. Whether it's going to be on the digital front, e-commerce, or maybe something brick and mortar over here. I think when you look at the realms of business over here, and I know a lot of people are eager to get into something here, I'd say probably just timing is very important, and you kind of have to wait. Don't rush into getting into a business and just getting screwed over, and having to fold. If you see the right opportunity, it's better to wait than to rush something.
Well, Forrest, I'm thinking about opening a bar and then attaching a massage shop to it. Are you down to invest in my venture?
Yeah, a $2 million upfront cost, getting hassled by the cops.
No, that's great though. So that's very interesting, kind of taking the religious bend to it. And it sounds like, is there a pretty good Catholic community here?
I'd say, believe it or not, I think the Catholic community is actually quite big over here, even though this country is very predominantly Buddhist. And when it comes to the Catholic community, it spans all the way from King Rama IV and V, due to the relations with the Vatican.
And I've been going to Assumption Cathedral for the past couple of months nearby the Chatham-Kroon area, and I think it's a wonderful community over there. But even if you're not Catholic, I mean, there's plenty of like churches over there if you're Anglican or evangelical or whatever. So I think from my experiences, it's been quite wonderful, the Catholic community over here. It's actually quite big.
It's really interesting because I think it goes back to the lesson of there's something for everyone here. And the reason I think it's so interesting is because there's what people think about of Thailand, whether it be debauchery and, silly stuff and, I don't know, drinking all the time and getting a beer gut or whatever else it is. There's that side of it. But then we're kind of talking about the other side, which there is a serious side.
Yeah.
There is a family side. There's a religious side. There's so many things you can find your place in Thailand and even in Bangkok. I mean, would you say that's...
I mean, yeah, there's Thailand in general, there's always something for everyone over here. And, when I moved here back in December of 2020, like, compared to like some of the videos that I posted, I was like posting dating videos. Like, I look back on it, I'm like, dude, you're a fucking idiot. Yeah, it's like, I posted like, just like, compared to what I post now, it's like, I'm posting like travel videos of like the girls that I've dated and just like being unfiltered with, some of the stuff and some of the advice that I say. And then I look at my old videos and I'm like, oh my God, this is so cringe compared to like where I'm currently at and like with what I want to do in the future. So it's like, some of the, if you want to perform like debauchery stuff or like being a degenerate and you just want to party, whatever, like I'm not going to judge, because who am I to judge? I did some of the stuff like when I first came here. So, but for me, like, that's not something I want to do long term. Like that, because all the debauchery and all the degenerate stuff, I kind of see this as like fun surface level stuff. It's not serious, but if you make that your primary, then, you might have some problems.
Yeah, fair. Well, you've been incredibly generous with your time. I'm just curious, do you have any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share? And like, what's the best place for people to follow your journey or get in touch with you?
I think my last parting words of wisdom and advice, I would say, is that this is a country that, that will take care of you, that'll give to you, even if you're like a new person, like not knowing anything. Like, Thais will go around and just give their shirt off their back for you. But my biggest advice is make sure you give back. And I think the biggest thing to give back is like, I don't know, like your security guards, like buy them like somtam, buy them muping, or like if there's Thai New Year's, like give them money. That's how you help Thai people. Just give them money. That's it. I'm not saying that. I mean, be wise about it. Like, don't feel like you have to give them every now and then. Don't make it. We're like, oh, I got to give them money like all the time. But it's like when it comes to like special occasions, like I don't know, like Thai New Year's, like Chinese New Year's, or maybe Songkran. Like, give them like a 500 baht or something to like celebrate the occasion. Like, that actually goes a long way.
It's a great point, and I've always had relationships with the people that have worked at my condos and whatnot. And the sad thing is, sometimes the condos, the management that runs them, for the New Year's, they'll give them maybe 100 baht or 200 baht. I'm sure there's good management, but sometimes I've heard the horror stories of people that have worked there for so long, and they don't get appreciated, right?
Yeah, they never get appreciated. It's like I'm not saying that you gotta buy them like steak or anything. Like, just buy them like gestures. Like, buy them a little bit of breakfast that costs like 20 or 30 baht.
Yeah,
it's like a lesson of like it's around $1 or something. It actually goes a long ways.
Absolutely. Now, what about the way to follow your journey or even potentially get in touch with you? Any services or anything that you could help people with?
Just youtube.com/Forrest Lee. Like, that's where you can find my videos. I've got my Instagram. If they need coaching and consulting, you can just book it all off my website. That's pretty much it.
That's fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time for us. It was awesome.
Appreciate it, Scott.
Cheers.
Cheers.